from a small island called Lubang. Yeah. Hold on one second. Lubang, which is about a 90-minute ferry ride from Manila Bay. And my mom is Vietnamese, and they met during the war. My dad left the Philippines in the late 60s and to go work for the United States Air Force to build an airfield in Vietnam for the war. And he met my mom at the engineering company that was in charge, his employer that was in charge of the construction project. She was working in the office, and that's how they met. And then I came along. and we and yeah, that was it. So we moved in. We first moved to Chicago.
Okay.
So my early childhood was Chicago, and then eventually came out here when I was 8 years old, and have been in California ever since.
Nice. So when did the entertainment bug hit you? You know, how did that come into your life?
Well, I guess probably, I always enjoyed, movies, but I never really fell in love with, hold on one second. There we go. I didn't really fall in love with movies until my dad took me to go see a movie called Raiders of the Lost Ark back in 1981, 82, right around there. And that experience was just so it's a comic book movie, right? But it was so profound and so intense, and it stuck with me. And ever since then, I've loved movies, but I never thought that I could actually go and make one until high school. I remember I was a sophomore and I was talking about college with a buddy of mine, and we both loved movies. And he mentioned in passing that he was going to go to film school. And I was like, film school? And he said, yeah, you can go and major in film production, go to college and learn how to make movies. And I was just like,
what?
And so right after that, I was just like, all of my other plans were kind of secondary. And I just kind of threw my entire everything behind getting into film school. And then once I got into film school, I decided that I wanted to be a big time filmmaker. I always wanted to be, to be able to make movies. And I just kind of innocently decided to write a movie for my thesis, the short film that would get me my degree. I decided to write a short little story about myself and all of my buddies who all happened to be Filipino. Now, I was 19 at the time. Maybe, no, 22. Oh yeah, I would have been 21 at the time. But the significance of the fact that all of my friends were non-white, were Filipino, eluded me. I didn't understand what that meant. And so as I started writing the script, I thought, okay, well, I need to do some research here. I need to figure out what the story is going to be, et cetera. And so then I started taking Asian American Studies courses at UCLA, and then just reading everything that I could. And I basically gave myself a minor degree in Asian American Studies over the course of a couple of years. And then I just started working on the screenplay, and I met John Castro after I did the trailer film. I did a short version of an early draft of the screenplay, the first 10 minutes, to show people that I could actually make a movie if they gave me money. And then that became my thesis project and became the trailer for the fundraising film to raise the money for the final movie. So sorry, that's a meandering answer.
No, that's perfect. Because, people got to realize that, first, if you guys are just tuning in right now, make sure you smash the like button, share it, because we're about to get into the juicy part of this Q&A panel, since we're diving into the production. Now, you mentioned that this was pretty much the thesis that grew into this feature film, big budget, production, right? And from what I've read, it took about 8 years in the process from that point on till its release. Am I close around that time?
Yeah, it was 92 was when I first started working on the screenplay. And the film was finished in 2000, had its world premiere at the LA Asian Pacific Film Festival as the opening night film in the year 2000. And then we went on tour because we couldn't get anybody to release the movie. Nobody was interested in because you have to understand, I mean, it doesn't feel like it, but I guess in terms of media time, it's a really long time. And they're just, there was, diversity was only a catchphrase at that point, right? In many ways, I made the movie about 15 years too early, right? If I had made the film a little bit later, say 2000, and it came out say in 2010, 2015, I probably would have had a lot easier time getting my next job because diversity was actually valued by then, right? Mm-hmm. When the film first came out, it was the type of thing where people would talk about it with nice platitudes and stuff, but people wouldn't actually go do that type of movie.
I definitely feel like that film was ahead of its time, if anything. Remember,
in many ways, we didn't realize it at the time, because I mean, honestly, I never thought that I would see as much diversity in movies and television, and we're not even there yet, right? But the improvements that have happened over the last 20 years are pretty staggering, pretty amazing. I never thought I would see a show like Fresh Off the Boat on ABC, a major network at 8 p.m. I mean, I never thought I would ever see a non-English language movie from Asia win Best Picture, and now it's just accepted and it's changed so quickly, and it's a real blessing. I mean, obviously there's still a lot more to go, and we've got some really serious problems with racism and intolerance, not just in the United States, but all around the world, right? But the fact that there has been progress in certain areas is really, really positive and leaves me feeling optimistic about the future. As dark as it can seem these days with everything that's going on, I get the sense that at the end of the day, our trout was the Martin Luther King said, it bends towards justice, right? The arc of history bends towards justice, and hopefully that's true. Hopefully that's what we're seeing right now. So I hope this is answering your questions that you want to hear.
Oh yeah, because I feel like, well, one, this is like we're now trying to reach a whole new generation, because it's just so different just watching it back then and then watching it now. I think people are more aware about the racial injustices, and even still back then there's certain lines where even till now I feel like we're getting those racial injustices today. Now, we didn't have the whole hashtag Stop Asian Hate, and the fact that your movie is still being relevant even today, like it just screened at the CamFest recently in the Bay Area. So congratulations again. See, it's still. Have you ever thought that your film would have continued, and I guess in the sense still be relevant till now, and do you see it even relevant many more years later?
Well, I mean, I'm flattered that the movie is still considered to be relevant today. But, it's 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, right? Because we thought that would, because, I mean, for students of Asian American film history, the very first Filipino American feature film came out right before us. It was from a New York-based filmmaker, Francisco Aliwalas, and he did a film called Disoriented. And then, that was one of the many things that got us thinking that we could pull this off, right? Like, he did it, we can do it too. And the hope was that this movie would kind of spark a whole lot of additional independent feature films coming out of our community. And not just the Filipino community, but the Asian American community in general. And then right after us, a friend of mine got his film into Sundance. It's the first Filipino American film ever shown at Sundance, called Flipside. If you ever get a chance to see it, I'm sure you can Google it. I believe you can buy it online. And it's a really good film. And so I was of the impression that we were just going to get movie after movie after movie. And it didn't happen, unfortunately. More of the, at the time, in the early aughts, God, makes me feel old. But at the time, everybody gravitated towards YouTube, right? So you had all the, all of the makers and stuff. The feature films stopped happening, and you just basically saw a lot of short form content on YouTube, right? And that part disappointed me. I was a little sad that more films didn't follow, but I understand why. And especially if anybody kind of watched the behind the scenes documentaries. Like, I think you guys showed the behind the scenes, right? As part of today's program, right? Well, I think a lot of folks, a lot of filmmakers who wanted to try to do what we did saw those documentaries on the DVD. And I think a lot of folks maybe got freaked out a little bit because they saw how hard it was and decided that it was too much, which I totally understand. I totally understand. It was the hardest thing I've ever done, and I don't intend on doing anything like that ever again. And that's, and Meriden,
it's hard. It's hardcore. I mean, it's from the ground up. You're really like working your ass off. Excuse me.
but even you were also in Patricio's film Lumpia. One of our associate producers. He started out as an intern on the debut. Just got more and more involved with the film because he's a badass. His name is Patricio Janelsa. He went on to go and direct a ton of music videos, including a couple of music videos for the Black Eyed Peas, award-winning videos for the Black Eyed Peas. And he just recently did a feature film called Lumpia with a Vengeance, a sequel to a little kind of super micro budget feature that he did when he was like in high school. And Meriden was in it, and it's hilarious. It's like if it was possible to have, if you can imagine a Rocky Horror Picture Show, right? Cult classic Rocky Horror Picture Show, but with a Filipino American cast and a Filipino story, that's Lumpia with a Vengeance, and it's awesome. And my hope is someday it becomes like this classic midnight movie where people like will go see it and recite, lines and sing songs along with the movie, just like they do with Rocky Horror Picture Show, right? Because it's unlike anything out there. But
I feel like it has been like a ripple effect, because since the debut, I remember Patricio was mentioning how it has inspired him to do Lumpia and then Lumpia with a Vengeance. So, and when I met Patricio, I actually met him in the East Coast while I was still a nursing major. I was like, oh my God, I'm one of those people who did change their major into broadcasting for TV and film production. Talking about sequels, a burning question I had is, do you see a sequel for the debut? Now that we've shifted from a pandemic era where we're watching everything online and everything's more accessible, like we can even purchase this film in Amazon and other platforms, right? Is there a sequel in the making for the debut?
Well, I mean, I guess because of the current climate, there have been a couple of folks that have reached out to us to see if they could try to set up a sequel someplace. We dipped our toe in the water to do a sequel about 10 years ago. And I went to Manila and I pitched the movie, and we got a tentative green light from one of the smaller studios there, the up and coming studios. But then that studio got bought out the week after they said yes to us. They got bought out by a larger corporation. And so in the middle of that merger, they downsized and got rid of the film department. So there went Debut 2. In many ways, I think of Lumpia with a Vengeance in some ways like a kind of like a spiritual sequel, because Pat was there for all of the drama, for the making of the movie, and then also for the distribution of the movie, which is a whole nother saga, which, as you saw the behind the scenes docs, so you know what I'm talking about. But and so he decided he wanted to do the same thing, which is admirable, but also a little crazy. And if anyone kind of knows the backstory and how hard it was to get Lupia with a Vengeance made, it was every bit as just soul crushing as getting the debut made. And I remember Pat and I would get together for drinks every month, just so we could vent and he could kind of like release the pressure with somebody who actually knows what it feels like to go through that.
Well, I know we pride ourselves in saying that this is community driven, but yet at the same time, ironically, we're still asking for more community support, you know? So I feel personally, it has to be beyond the community too. You know, we want to be able to have a story that's timeless and that can be catered to not just, you know, our circle or our community, but that everyone can enjoy. And I think I remember watching one of your interviews, how you said that a story like this cannot be successful in our home country, let's say in the Philippines. This is not like a typical story that would attract to an audience, whether we are expats or, you know. So I guess we were just trying to find the right balance to still be able to tell our Filipino American story while still attracting to the mass audience, because that is a hard formula and we're still figuring it out, you know. But I see what we hear of movies like Crazy Rich Asians, and they always say like, oh, we haven't seen a predominantly Asian cast since the Joy Luck Club. And I'm thinking like, well, here's this film, 2001. Like, why are we not getting that attention and it's almost that push, or it's almost discouraging sometimes. But the fact that there are still people trying to produce content, it's almost like having that preparation meets opportunity kind of thing. So, but the fact that we're still here and we're still trying to push for more content, more representation, it's still an ongoing struggle, even 20 years later.
Yeah, it's never, and that's not going to end anytime soon, right? I mean, in many ways, I think the 21st century, the history of the 21st century is going to be, when I think of what it might look like looking back for our great-great-grandchildren when they're learning about this period in history, you know, it'll be a mixture of climate change and globalization and all of the drama surrounding that. And diversity in media is a key part of, in my mind, globalization. And this is not going to happen overnight. This is, in many ways, we're going to be, as much, even though there's all this nationalism and all, and not just here in the United States with Trump and all of his people, but you see the same phenomenon happening all around the world, including in the Philippines, right? Duterte has been described as the Filipino Trump, which is, I think he thinks of that as a compliment, but I think most people look at that as, and just makes you want to throw up, myself included. So this issue of how are we all going to get along, right? How are we going to build a society where everybody is included and everybody is important? And for all the problems that the United States has, and we have legions, right? In many ways, we still do it better than anybody in the world. Mm-hmm. You know,
I feel that we have we have dedicated hard workers who are very passionate, and you know, we're very hospitable people, right? And I think that with our generation, I guess, you know, I know you're a parent of 2, and I just recently became a parent, and I'm
congratulations, by the way.
Oh, thank you. She's now 13 months old. And as a parent and in the entertainment industry, I'm just hoping that maybe she doesn't have the same experience as we did, where we're like almost begging for representation. Like, do we see ourselves valuable? You know, we didn't have, you know, our own Jackie Chan or something, but to talk more about our Southeast Asian roots, right? And now we're seeing, you know, Raya and the Last Dragon on Disney. We're seeing the host of Blue's Clues is also Filipino. And it's just, I just still hope that their generation, as young as they are, that they still have appreciation that, you know, we didn't have that type of recognition or that value on screen, whether it's in theaters or on TV or now on laptops and cell phones. I'm just curious to see, like, hopefully that, you know, as much they can see, like, you know what, I can be that next star too, or I can write or produce content and still have my story be as meaningful as my as my peers, right? So
yeah, I mean, the positive thing is, and again, just like anything else in life, it's complicated. There's no easy black or white, good or bad answer. But when it comes to diversity in movies and television, it's absolutely essential. But what drives the entertainment industry, what moves things forward, is unfortunately a scarcity complex, right? That's what keeps everybody in line. That's what keeps everybody working as hard as they do, because there are just a lot more people that want to work in the industry than there are jobs for people in the industry. Fortunately, diversity is viable these days, but let's just be honest. Diversity is not viable today because of any less racism or hatred or intolerance in the world. Diversity is profitable today because in our hyper-fragmented media, where you've got movies, umpteen cable channels, millions of YouTube channels, video games, I mean, you name it, there are so many different ways to veg out in front of a screen, right?
I think people are forgetting that this is show business, and much we want to be as creative, it's hard to realize, oh my God, how do we say that this is marketable and sellable? That, you know, in the business, they got to see numbers, right? They got to see statistics. And
yeah, and that's exactly the reason why diversity works in this environment, right? Because with that much media, with such a hyper fragmented mass media that we have today, with the internet and cable TV and movies and video games and everything else, to get your movie to stand out, diversity is a pretty clear and efficient way to reach out to a very defined audience. In the case of the debut, it's the Filipino American and Asian American audience, right? And so that's the reason why, that's the primary reason why you're seeing diversity today. It's not because of the conscience of Hollywood all of a sudden became enlightened. It became the reality that you could make money using diversity because it can target an audience and cut through the noise and reach an audience in a very efficient manner. Hollywood is not interested in diversity from a, well, there are elements, you know, individual artists, you know, there's a lot of individual artists who care about diversity, and that's the reason why they're in the entertainment industry. But the industry itself only cares about diversity to the extent that it can use it as an efficient marketing tool to reach out to a niche audience, right? So that's the good and the bad. It's great the diversity is a thing now, but let's not get confused that people are doing it because they actually care about the issue. They care about making money. And that's what drives diversity today, right? And it's also one of the reasons why even though things are much better now than they've ever been for diverse stories, they're still going to be hard as hell to get made and to get distributed. So that's just the reality of the nature of the entertainment industry. So as you know, I mean, as
I'm going to bring it back.
You've experienced it yourself.
We're going to go back a little towards the film. If there is is there anything that you would have changed for the debut? Like now seeing it again, I'm sure, like how many times, is there anything you think? I
don't know. I mean, you know, I made the movie in my 20s and I'm a completely different person now, right. You know? So yeah, if I made the movie again today, it would be a very different movie. It would probably focus on, hopefully, some more nuanced and relevant themes for, you know, what I've experienced as a parent, as a Asian American man, etc. But when I look at the movie now, and I cringe, of course, because it's like, oh my God, who wrote this? you know, but
there were some hardcore scenes in there, great acting, and it got tense. And I feel that I think there were actually physical hits in that movie too. So yeah, that was pretty fun to watch actually.
But yeah, I mean, I don't, you know, hopefully if I were to make it again today, it would not feel as much like as a first film. But that's why first films are first films. You know, you make a lot of mistakes, and you can tell when it's, you can almost always tell when it's somebody's first movie, right? Because there's, especially when it comes to people of color, because identity is usually a major part of the story. And you're trying to balance so many different things that it can be very hard to have the film feel super polished at all times. And so you're just hoping that the sincerity of the movie comes through, even if the technical or the craftsmanship elements of the movie are not, you know, first rate yet, right? And that's why I look, I go, you know, yeah, I would make a totally different movie today, but I am happy that we did manage to finish it, to get it done and out there, and it's very gratifying that today, 20 some years later, it seems to be starting to find a whole new generation of fans, which is really great.
Yeah, I feel like after watching, especially the viewers right now who've watched it for the first time, I think you definitely gain more fans. But on that note, what would you give an advice to an aspiring filmmaker who is going to make their first film? What, you know, what would you tell them?
I mean, there's 1,000 different things to share. I guess that the two biggest things were the things that kind of affected me the most, and I would hope that other filmmakers could learn from the mistakes that I made. Number one, don't become a parent and make a movie right away, right? Because the rigors of what it takes to actually make a movie, an independent film in particular, are not compatible with being a good parent. You can't do both. It's just not possible. So if you want to make your movie, hold off on having kids.
Well, I
no, seriously, because my kids themselves. I mean, look, Meriden, you've got a lot of different, you know, interests, and you're probably not going to be mortgaging your house to make your first feature film anytime soon. I hope not. I would advise you against doing that, because that can destroy lives. It, you know, and that's exactly what happened to Patricio. He went and had the same experience that I did. It was brutal, him making Lumpia with a Vengeance. You know,
I think growing up in the East Coast, I feel like we were definitely more business oriented. So coming out here to LA, you know, we were definitely thinking of the creatives and just focusing on just making, oh, this great film with all this action and all this drama and whatnot. But yeah, I think what it comes down to, and I wish they teach this in school, is really trying to budget and manage the financial aspect. Because like I said earlier, it is a show business. And I think for those who are watching it, it's a lot of work. It's not just, oh, I have a great idea, I'm going to write it down and just hopefully, you know, people just give me money and then all of a sudden, boom. No, it's just beyond that. So, but I guess
pretty far beyond that. But the other thing that I would say to any aspiring filmmaker out there, because when I'm saying don't have kids, I'm basically saying you need to streamline your life. Mm-hmm. You kind of can't really do anything else but work on your movie when you're working on your movie, right? I mean, maybe you can drive for Uber on the weekends and, you know, make a little bit of dough, you know, but for the most part, your movie will take over your life. For at least a couple of years, if you're going to actually finish it, if you're going to actually do it and actually finish it and actually get it out into wherever, you know, out into the world. But the other thing would be, especially in today's environment, I would think that it is smart not to put everything into your first movie, right? I would think, rather than kind of blowing your wad all at one time on one movie, the first movie, I would say try to go for something a little bit more modest. If I was making the debut again today, I don't think I would have spent anywhere near as much money on it as we ended up spending 20 some years ago, right? And I look at my peers who came up with me, and almost without exception, every filmmaker who managed to get a second independent feature film made and out into the world, distributed, is working today. And the guys who, even if they were very popular films like The Debut, if you only made one, that wasn't enough. So, and it's just the same way today. So I would say, yeah, number one, streamline your life, don't have kids, because your movie is going to be everything. That's the only way to get it made. And number two, save enough in your tank. Don't empty it out with your first movie. Save enough energy, resources, whatever you need to get your movie made, to get at least one more movie made. Because having two pieces will make you so much more marketable and so much easier to have the industry take you seriously, as opposed to just one. So.
Well, we definitely appreciate your wise words, and you know, your film has inspired so many people, and we are going to hopefully continue the momentum where, you know, we want more representation, more stories being told from our perspective, but doing it wisely. But we really want to thank you for really sharing your film and your story, your experience, because now, you know, even I'm one of those filmmakers who's like, okay, what do we do next? What should we be on the look out for? And yeah, and hopefully we can continue to see that monumental change within our media and our content consumption, right? So I want to thank you so much, Gene, for joining us. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Gene, where can we find you on social media? And hopefully, how can we
I'm kind of semi-retired from social media as well, too, simply because it's just, I just discovered the hard way that if I'm on social media, not enough work is getting done.
Right, I know.
I mean, but you can always email me through, I believe you guys reached out to me originally through the website, 5cardproductions.com, and you can just email me through my website. You know, oh, we have merchandise from the movie.
Oh yes, please share, and please tell us where we can buy the film.
Yeah, just go to eBay. Just go to eBay and Google debut merchandise, and you'll pull up our little debut store. We still have like T-shirts and stuff from 20 some years ago, because unfortunately the very last stop on our tour was New York, and New York kicked our butts, and so we ended up with a bunch of leftover T-shirts and merchandise after the New York tour, and I still have some to this day. And so you can like get your official T-shirt still, or a poster or what have you, on eBay. Just look up debut merchandise and I'll send you some stuff.
They're probably already appraised in value now.
I don't know. It's a good question, right? I you know, maybe, hopefully.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Gene. We really enjoyed our time together. Now I'm just going to pass the mic to Lauren, who will give our closing remarks. Thank you again.
I'm actually going to pass it over to Eve, who's going to do.
Thank you. Well, again, on behalf of FYLPRO and PFAY and alumni engagement, Meriden and Gene, thank you so much for gracing us with our and hosting and moderating the Q&A portion for the debut. Personally, it was my first time, and I am truly inspired of the movie. After all these years, I'm truly, the movie has definitely gained a few more fans. So thank you so much, Gene, for continually being a part of the movement for representation in our community. So with that,
appreciate that.
You're very welcome. With that, I have the great honor of introducing, of course, through all these events that we host through the Filipino Young Leaders Program, Lauren and I share obviously the same sentiment in terms of the support that we have from our leaders, our board of directors of FYLPRO. And one of those advocates who continually have our support in advocating for the upliftment of our community is our current president, Luella Rose Caballona. She is a senior manager for data analytics solutions at Blue Cross Blue Shield of Illinois. In her over 20 years as an IT professional, she's worked for various Fortune 500 companies such as Walgreens, Sears, Discover, and US Cellular. Luella Rose is also the founder, creative director, and lead singer of Filipino folk fusion band Sama Sama Project, channeling her creative energies as a TV commercial and musical theater actor with Repertory Philippines and Tanghalang Filipino in Manila, as well as theater works in Singapore. An active community leader, Luella is the president of FYLPRO, as mentioned, the Filipino Young Leaders Program. She also serves on the board of directors for Asian Pop-Up Cinema, the Philippine American Chamber of Commerce of Greater Chicago, and the Midwest Filipino American Coalition. She's passionate about sharing Filipino culture in the modern world and actively supports all outstanding Filipinos around the globe through her writing in the Via Times News Magazine and her various advocacies. So please help me welcome our president, Madam President, Luella Rose Caballona.
Thank you. Thanks, Eve. We didn't really need that big intro after the movie from Gene and Meriden. I appreciate you both, Gene, for taking the time to answer questions after the film. Like Eve, this is also the first time I've seen it. And having come to the US after that film has been shown, I didn't realize like how long our struggle has been for recognition. And I echo what Meriden has said, that you were blazing the trail on this one. You were actually light years ahead. And I'd like to think that this little film that could be moved the needle in making it sooner, because if not for that film, perhaps maybe we would still be in the dark. Perhaps maybe we still would not have that same realization that we need that representation. So, you know, like it was light years ahead. It was a struggle for you, but it made it very, very easy for people decades after because of your work and the rest of the cast. So I applaud you for that. So, and yes, so with Meriden, thank you again for hosting. We're already talking in the backstage here about having your movie be screened next time. As you know, I'm in IT, yes, for sure, but my heart is in the arts. I've always been in theater and musical theater in the Philippines, and definitely now with my association with Asian Pop-Up Cinema, we're always trying to bring Asian American films in the forefront here, and I'm hoping that we can actually bring yours as well for FYLPRO and for PFAY. So thank you for that, Even Lauren. As always, I love all the events that you are putting together. There's a lot more, and I'd like to actually just take the time to invite our folks to some of them. If you don't mind, I'm gonna do a quick share here, and I'm not very good at multitasking when it comes to online stuff, but I'll try what I can. So just today, we did the debut, right? And it's happened today within the Alumni Engagement Committee. We are also working to put together a documentary and panel in celebration of the Philippines and U.S. diplomatic relations 75th anniversary in July 30th. We will be showing vignettes, like parts of the Asian Am documentary, and a panel with all our alumni, and that's fingers crossed, that's in cooperation with GMA Pinoy TV, just like we did with Here Now, confronting anti-Asian hate back in March. So those are things that are happening on FYLPRO's side. We also have November 4, 5, and 6. Please watch out for everybody here. We will have the very first virtual Filipino Young Leaders Conference, FYLPROCon 2021, and we will have exciting guests from all over the world, talking Philippines, USA, Australia, Middle East, everybody, all the movers and shakers in the different Filipino communities around the globe. So please watch out for that. And then we also have, let me see what's on next for here. For those that are alumni, for those that are listening, we are trying to now collect archives, pictures, and digitized artifacts of our immersion, 8 years of immersion programming. So please keep in touch with us in the e-com to find out how we can collect some of those memories and really make that be part of our organization. As you can see here, these are actual invitations to dinner by Ramon and Marivic del Rosario, by Washington CSIP, like a big big captains of industry that we met in the Philippines back in 2012. This is mine, by the way, but we want to find the artifacts for all batches, 2013 to 2018. So please keep in touch with us on how we can grab those artifacts from you for our collection. And then finally, our family is growing. We have new members for various committees. I know Jason Gaiton is part of the alumni engagement, as well as Anna Allaire. There's other folks as well. Maria Rafa is working on our accounting and finance. So lots of new people, not necessarily alumni. So especially for PFAY folks, I'm requesting you guys that if you are interested in being part of FYLPRO, we need volunteers to be part of our committee. So just let us know. Eve and Lauren are your contacts, and we'll definitely give you all the information on how you can join us. Yep, and then quick plug. We are now on Amazon Smile. So if you're looking for a not-for-profit that you can donate to, there's a way to actually connect your Amazon account so that every purchase that you make goes to FYLPRO. So if you need the details on that one, again, just email info@phylpro.org and we can make that happen for you. So yes, so I'll close to that just with some pictures of our recent board retreat. And in Hawaii, where we met some of the representatives of FYLPRO, as well as Mayor Victorino. We've got senators, Filipino senators, Ty Cullen and Henry Aquino. We met councilwoman, councilpersons, Radiant Cordero, Brandon Elefante, all Filipino Americans. And I'm hoping that some of them will also be part of FYLPRO Con. So watch out for that. This is our pictures of Hawaii, and we'll let you know more about it in the coming weeks. But that's just some of what's in store for FYLPRO. So thank you again for watching. We hope to have another alumni engagement activity very soon with you guys. I'll turn it back to Lauren and Eve. Thank you.
Thanks, Blue. I don't know what else to say, but thank you so much for joining us. It was a great movie. We had a really great time learning from Gene and hearing from Meriden. So I hope you guys have a good rest of the night and keep an eye out for more events from FYLPRO and PFAY. Okay.
Yes.
And PFAY, thank you, PFAY, for being a part of this.
Supporting.
Thanks, guys. Take care now.
Bye.
Thank you. Take care, everyone.
Bye,
Thanks,
everyone.
everybody. Bye.
Peace out.
There you go.
After party.